Welcome to another episode of Cybersecurity One-on-One with Larry and Joe. It's been a while.
It really has been a while, Larry. We've been getting a lot of people hitting us up on LinkedIn, which is awesome. It's really great to hear that people are listening and this has been helpful for them. A lot of people have been wanting to know, Larry, how are you doing and what you've been up to.
Well, I'm doing great. And so I graduated. Yay. I graduated on February 27th from my computer career, which is awesome. So I took a couple of weeks off from all the schooling. And now I'm looking for work, which I got a couple of offers. It's just because I'm just such a new beginner that the pay's low, but I don't mind that if I can have the hours. I would love that. So so it's been good. It's been good.
Okay. Now, you were telling me a while back you were also looking into the certified ethical hacker training. Is that in progress or tell
That's
us
in
about
progress. I'm starting on May the 10th. Everything's done, so I'm excited about that.
So tell our listeners about the certified ethical hacker. What is that, and what do you hope to learn from that program?
It's a cybersecurity specialist where it's going to be focused more on the cybersecurity, and I'm going to be learning more of just more of the theoretical part of just of what I'm looking at and what's going on. So I'm very, very excited about that. I'm like, whoa, like it's a pretty good feel.
That's awesome. And then you were telling me there's another program that you applied to. Tell us about that program.
It was the Microsoft Academy, but I'm very excited about that too. So, and I thank you for that because you sent me that link and I'm sitting like, whoa, like it's pretty intense.
Yeah, it's a great program. I've gotten to know some of the folks that have gone through the program and they've found good work, good jobs. They have a good job placement program, and that's one of the reasons why I recommend it. Is not only is a good education, good experience, and you'll go, I think, a little bit deeper on the Microsoft part of it, which is really good too. I'm a little biased, obviously, towards Microsoft, but and then since the last episode, there's been a lot happening in the world of cybersecurity. SolarWinds was basically a victim of a supply chain attack where the attackers got in and modified their code so that the customers, I think there's 18,000 customers that were signed up for kind of a warranty service where their software could automatically update. It downloaded the malware that the attackers kind of planted inside of the SolarWinds code, and it automatically distributed it to those clients. And a lot of those clients were, pretty important networks, various U.S. government agencies and corporations. And so the attackers were able to basically gain a foothold and move laterally inside of the network. And it was very, very difficult to detect because the software binary was signed with a certificate of trust from SolarWinds. So if you were a information security person at those companies and you saw the activity, you saw that whatever activity it was originating from signed, binaries that were cryptographically signed with the certificate from SolarWinds. And so it's a very devastating attack because it exploits trust in a signed executable. And a lot of organizations run software that automatically updates from these vendors. So I think this is, it wasn't the first, it's not going to be the last. Citrix was compromised, I think it was 2019. I should say they were informed that they had been compromised for over 10 years. It's believed to be by Iran. So basically, Iran was inside of the Citrix software manufacturer for 10 years, and that allowed Iran to get into, again, various government agencies. So that's what we mean when you hear the term advanced persistent threat, APT. it means they're so advanced that they're able to remain persistent inside of a network, and therefore it's a pretty, serious threat. So, you know, the attackers were in SolarWinds. It's believed, initially, their code was probably installed in the fall of 2019. And then they waited a while to see if their code was detected. And then they sprung into action somewhere around, I believe, March and then June of 2020. And they remained undetected for, until I believe it was January of 2021, if I'm not mistaken, was kind of when it was first detected. So that has been consuming a lot of attention. Uh, Politically, it's been called a cyber war by some people, by this just indiscriminate hacking of so many organizations by a nation state, because it's believed the hackers were from Russia. And so it's cyber warfare on a scale that hasn't been seen before. So it's pretty unprecedented. Other than maybe what happened to Citrix a couple of years prior, but that didn't get a lot of headlines for some reason. And then more recently, Larry, Microsoft had a vulnerability in their Exchange server product, which is a email system that over, it's estimated between 250 to over 300,000 different organizations worldwide were running that, and on premise. And that's kind of the older way to run email systems, is to actually host it in your data center. The more modern way, that kind of more popular way, is to host it in the cloud, and that's called Office 365 or Exchange Online.
Right.
But for these 250 to 300,000 organizations, they were issued a patch by Microsoft on March 2nd to basically update their servers. And all sorts of government agencies issued, memos saying, please update, this is the big one. This is critical. You got to update right away. So I think up till recently, there was still somewhere between, estimates vary between 40 to 80,000 servers out of those 250,000 had still not been patched. And I think it's like small businesses that just don't have, the manpower, the skill, or just aren't, reading Twitter and email about this, or the news, about this. And so now hackers have created this ransomware, I believe it's called DeerCry, and it's designed to deploy ransomware inside an organization. And what's really potentially scary is that if that becomes a worm like WannaCry, and the fact that it's named DeerCry, it has the word cry in it. It remembers us. It causes us to remember in 2017, the WannaCry ransomware was spreading indiscriminately to any kind of internet connected host that was vulnerable. I believe it was the SMB protocol, server message block protocol, vulnerabilities in that. Wow. So if you were connected to the internet and you had an open file share, you were going to get ransomed. Ransomware was going to hit that box. And so that's what's called a worm. A worm in security technology is when something can spread on a network without any kind of human direction. It's very indiscriminate. It scans, it spreads, and it's perhaps the most devastating of all, cyber attack, because if you're connected to the internet and you're running that vulnerable software, you're going to get ransomed. And so yeah, WannaCry, was devastating in 2017, and this DeerCry is going to potentially affect anywhere from 40 to 80,000 Exchange servers if they don't get patched. And email is such a business critical system. It's one thing for WannaCry to take out your file server so people can't share files. That's pretty bad. But email arguably is the one or two most critical business application that an organization has. So if they can't communicate to their customers, if they can't receive orders, if they can't even communicate to their employees, talk about a business disruption. And it's been said that more than half of small businesses will actually either declare bankruptcy or completely fail and go out of business after a cyber attack, because they just can't recover from something like that. think about it. That server may be running not only, email, it might be having their accounting system on it, might have everything, all their files. Now they have no backups perhaps. And so they basically have to go out of business. It's too big of a loss. So yeah, there's just been, so much going on in 2021 that already that, it's in terms of the, cybersecurity, everyone's got to be on their toes. And then I just saw a few days ago, there's now code available to exploit vulnerabilities in F5 networks. So F5 makes these load balancers that a lot of those load balancers are internet facing. So if you have, let's say, 6 different web servers and you want to balance the load between all 6, you're going to either have an F5 load balancer, maybe Citrix, maybe, there's a few other, really good ones out there. But F5 is definitely one of the market leaders. So they have a lot of their equipment that's on the internet, these big 5, big IP F5 load balancers that are running what's called an RCE. So an RCE is a vulnerability called remote code exploit, remote code executable. And what this means is that you're remote and you're running code that can actually run on the server without you having to have a username or password. So we call it a pre-authenticated RCE, and that's potentially wormable, like WannaCry or DearCry for Exchange. So all these corporate networks, they're so focused. They were focused on SolarWinds, and then they had to focus on Exchange. And I think what's potentially going to happen is fatigue is going to set in, and they're not going to be able to see this F5 thing coming. I think the good ones will, but I think a large amount of these clients are going to be caught off guard here, and they're going to see, again, more intrusions happening inside their networks.
So it's just not just clicking on an email now, and
That's right.
Most companies tell you, hey, if it's a suspicious email, just if you click on that, then you can spread a virus right now. I mean, with the code that they have out now, it's if you don't get patched up with the new Exchange patch, you're very vulnerable right now.
That's right. If you didn't patch SolarWinds, if you didn't patch Exchange, if you didn't patch your F5, if you don't have a very mature patch management protocol or procedure to regularly know when your software that you're running or equipment that you're running has a vulnerability and when updates are available, if that's not a regular regimen inside of an organization, then you're right, Larry, an employee doesn't have to click anything. If those things are facing the internet and directly connected to the internet, then we're talking about an actual intrusion now, and it's now a incident response matter. So incident response is when you realize you've actually been infiltrated, and now you're trying to respond, and you need to understand the scope of the attack and understand which systems were affected. Generally speaking, it's a good practice to try to isolate those systems, preserve the evidence so that you can understand. It's really important to preserve the evidence so that you can gain what's called a indicator of compromise, an IOC. Those IOCs are basically like fingerprints at a crime scene. It helps you understand what other systems have those same fingerprints so that you can then understand the scope and how the attackers got in, so that you can learn from it and try to close those doors. One of the mistakes people get in these scenarios is they just quickly wipe the system. But if you wipe a system, you're wiping the evidence. Now you don't know how the attacker got in. What's to say they're not going to get in again? And so the problem there is then the attacker just regains entry again, and that's definitely an issue. Another thing that has been another thing in the news, Larry, I think that's kind of interesting to discuss, is the next version of Windows Server was announced at the Microsoft Ignite conference. And so it's called Windows Server 2022. And basically, this new version of Windows Server includes this security setting that will protect you from what's called firmware persistence. So firmware persistence means, Larry, imagine this. Imagine that your system gets hacked so bad that after you format and reload the operating system, the attacker's still in the system because they got their code into the firmware, which is beneath the operating system. So what that means is that you you basically can't easily clean that system as a normal person, or normal, even most security teams wouldn't be able to detect or realize when firmware has been hacked. So this new version of Windows Server that was announced has protection capabilities to protect against firmware that's been compromised. And so that's pretty interesting.
Very interesting. Wow. So, I mean, because I know when they usually come out with new servers and new things, that it's really good, but then afterwards they come out with they'll find a vulnerability. So then they come out with a new patch and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So how good is this new system that Microsoft is coming out with?
You're right. There's definitely a philosophy out there, Larry, that says don't deploy a new server, until it's got at least the first major service pack, so all the bugs are kind of worked out. And I was just talking to someone about that I'm not here to really debate whether it's right or wrong, but the flip side of that coin is organizations that don't stay up to date on the operating system, they end up with what we call technical debt. So technical debt is when you're so far behind in technology, you're building up all this sort of debt. And eventually, the interest rate becomes so high on technical debt, so to speak, that you now find yourself in a pickle. And so some of the projects I'm working on right now, people are still running Windows Server 2008 R2. And so we're getting calls and projects to upgrade because that server does not support security updates anymore. No. And so think about the technical debt when you hear about this major SolarWinds breach, you hear about the Exchange Ransomware, you hear about F5, and so now you're hunting and looking for these IOCs inside your network, but you realize that your Active Directory domain controller, which is the heart of the network where all the passwords are stored, the keys to the kingdom, so to speak, that is running on a operating system that is no longer receiving security updates because you haven't paid your technical debt. You haven't kept current, you haven't kept upgraded. So while I would say, does it make sense for everybody to rush out and install the very latest version of Windows Server as a response? In general, what I'd say is try to go to the latest version that Microsoft has released that is compatible with all of your applications. Because you might have an older application because your technical debt that doesn't support the latest version of Windows Server. And so maybe you can't go to the latest version, but if you can stay within what's called N-2, so this concept of N-2 is generally what Microsoft considers the last two major versions of an operating system. So, that would be, say, Windows Server 2016 and Windows Server 2019, would be the current supported versions. Older versions like 2012 R2, 2008 R2, those would be considered what's called a down level operating system, or something that you need to be actively planning to get those upgraded.
Right. Oh, that's very, very interesting. That's very interesting because I know from in school we learned a lot of the older operating systems, but then we did learn too that Microsoft, when they do get a new one, like you were saying, Windows 2000, Windows 2007s, they don't even send patches out to those systems anymore for security updates or anything. So you're kind of out there on your own. That's what they kind of say. That's what they kind of say.
Yeah.
So yeah, you do have to update your system.
Yeah. Now, in terms of Larry, in terms of kind of next steps, you have the certified ethical hacker training coming up in May.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Then you're gonna apply to the MSSA Academy for Microsoft.
So in the meantime, I'm going to start studying to get my Security Plus cert. So
Excellent.
that is my goal right now. And yes, I am going to try to get my Linux. I know it's going to be rough. I'm trying to get my Linux cert. So I'm a Linux guy. I know Joe's a Microsoft, but I love Microsoft too. I love them all. But I'm definitely going to try to get my Security Plus cert. That's my next goal here within the next month.
That's good. That's really good. I'm gonna hold you accountable, man. I'm gonna call you and say, hey, how your studying going? You gotta put the time in.
It's gonna be awesome.
It'll pay big dividends, I promise you. If you get that Security Plus and you get the Linux cert, those are really, really going to help your cybersecurity career. Absolutely. All right. Well, Larry, this was really good. It was really good to catch up. I think what we'll try to do is after either MSSA or CEH, or if you have an announcement on the job search, let us know. But right now, Larry is open to offers of employment. So we're recording this on March 21st, 2021. We'll update the notes if Larry does receive employment offers. But Larry's open and actively seeking for a SOC position, a Security Operations Center, SOC Analyst Level 1, to be basically looking at all the alerts coming in from all the systems, trying to analyze those and basically triage all the alerts coming in, identifying what is real, what is a false positive, and then escalating that up to a tier 2 analyst. And so that's kind of the job, progression. It's often, seen that a lot of folks that get their start in cybersecurity start off as a SOC analyst. It's a great way to get exposed to a lot of the threats out there and to just get familiar with terminology and systems and networking and people, just to get exposed, to gain experience, and then moving up to level 2, get more experience, get into incident response. And then eventually, we call that all blue teaming. So blue teaming is the defense of a network. And then oftentimes the blue teamers then have enough skill to consider being on the red team. So the red team would be the penetration testers, those that are basically trying to take everything they've learned from, how networks are defended. Now that you know how a network is defended, then you'll have advantages as an attacker because you know how to break into that network, right? And so that's kind of your long-term goal, I believe, is to be a penetration tester.
Oh yeah. I want to be on the SEAL Team 6. So that
nice.
That's what I want to do. So, but now, I'm open to any opportunity. I'm just very excited. I just want to get out there and get my feet wet and just learn some more on hand. I understand the terminology, but I need to get on out there and get into the mix. So I'm very excited about that.
Right on, Larry. Well, I wish you luck, my friend. We will stay in touch, and thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you.
And all right, Larry. Yeah, good to talk to you.
You have a good day. Everyone have a good day. God bless you.